Hi, friends. In our time together today, I'm introducing Blind Mary. It's a beautiful tune from the great Turlough O'Carolan. A number of folks in the community have asked that we walk through and learn this tune, and so it's time to do it. Now, if you've asked for us to learn a particular tune, I hope I don't forget any, and please forgive me if I do. But I've got this great long list and trying to work through it all, and it's a lot of fun. And I appreciate when you all ask that we learn tunes together. Anyway, as we go through Blind Mary, we'll follow the usual pattern. I'll walk us through the A part and then the B part, playing one phrase at a time so that you could see my hands. Then in the Play Along with Scott section, I'll play through the entire tune, including repeats, so that you could play with me, just at a nice, steady pace. After that, I'll chat about any difficulties I think you might experience in learning and playing the tune. We'll share some thoughts on ornamentation and expression, and in a couple of days, I'll play through and talk through what I'm thinking in my playing of the tune. Then I'll share what I found on the history of the tune. It's not tons, but it's really sweet and it's lovely. Now a couple of things. For the walkthrough, I'm using my Burke Brass Viper Low D, and I'll put a link in the notes as to where you could pick one up if you want. Also, on the transcription I'm providing, the transcription I'm using, because I looked at a number of different traditional music websites, like I like to do. They had fairly similar representations of the transcription, but they were different enough to be a little confusing. So I went back to Francis O'Neill's transcription from the middle of the 19th century, and I based what I'm doing off of that, and I listened to a bunch of people playing it. And so my transcription's really close to that provided by Francis O'Neill. Remember, we're taking Turlough O'Carolan composed this as a harp tune. We're taking a harp tune and we're playing it on our whistles. And so, there's some twiddly harp bits that aren't going to translate for us. And so, anyway, it's a beautiful tune. You're just going to love learning it. Many of you already know it, so that's awesome. Let's jump right in. Here is the A part, one phrase at a time. And there is the entry note to the A part is simply an A, and I'll play that. Now, the entry note to the B part is a step in, second octave D, second octave E. And you'll see those, but I just wanted to let you know. So anyway, here's the A part. All right, that is the A part. Now for the B part. First the walk in. go through those, get kind of a sense of the tune, and then come back and play with me and to play along with Scott's section as part of your learning. Now, I do provide chapters to these videos so that you could jump around if you need to. So, here's the entire tune. Well, that's the whole tune. Reasonably straightforward. I do think there are some challenges, though. The first challenge, I think, is in some of the notes, just really in one phrase. As you're playing it through, you're going to realize this. And in the middle of the A part, you're making an octave jump from the A to the F sharp. Now, in some tunes, that's a lot easier because you're supposed to punch into that. This is a smooth, gentle tune. And so it's a little harder to make a smooth transition there. See there, I had a weak entry into the note. And so pay attention to that. Now, the other thing I think is in the playing of the tune. The learning of the tune, I think it will be pretty straightforward. And I'm not jumping into the ornament section yet, but it's going to be getting that emotive, gentle flow and feel. So, work on that some. Not tons of challenges, though. This tune in and of itself is really going to help us develop our abilities as whistle playing musicians. So that's cool. Now let's think some through ornamentation and expression. And again, I'll say, listen to a number of people playing it. It's a lovely tune. It's interesting. Francis O'Neill provides comments on how to play most of the tunes he transcribes and provides in his collections. And with this one, he says to play it very slowly. And I don't know, I haven't heard that many people play very slowly. And I'm not exactly sure what Francis O'Neill means by very slowly. And you've got to remember, there is, like, between the time that Francis published this in a collection, Turlough O'Carolan had already been been dead for a little over 100 years. So, there's a reasonable gap between them. And is he thinking very slowly in comparison to a real or very, what's he mean? We don't really know. Anyway, so very smooth on the whistles. I'm imagining some vibrato. I'm imagining some gentle slides. I'm imagining just holding and sitting on some notes to let them ring. We'll see. And in a couple of days, I'll share one of my practice sessions. Now, something interesting. I've often said, I provide the core of a tune so that you can experiment and learn to ornament and express it as you do. I don't want you parroting what I do. That's why I provide the core of the tune as much as possible. Listen to great people playing this tune and take what you learn from them and then use it in the way you want to play it. It should be very personal. It should be yours as you're playing it. And that's great. Now, one real interesting example. I'm going to put a link in the notes to this video to a video of Joni Madden playing this tune. And, or it's actually a recording. And wow, she doesn't stay near the core of the tune at all. She takes this tune, she personalizes it, she turns it into a phenomenally emotive self-expression of Blind Mary. It's beautiful. But if you look at the core of the tune and you listen to what Joni did, you're going to go, is that the same? That's sort of the same tune. See, take the tune and personalize it. Learn the core and then step forward from there. Anyway, let's think through the history of the tune. Blind Mary, as I said, was first published in the middle of the 19th century by Francis O'Neill. I think, if I remember, this is tune number 655. Don't quote me on that one. The tune is attributed to Turlough O'Carolan, and Turlough lived from 1670 to 1738. He was blind, and he had some folks who were caring for him, help raise and educate him, and who taught him music so that he would have, and the harp, so that he would have a career. And then he would travel around and it was very accomplished as a composer and a musician. And he would travel around to different people who would sponsor him. And so great folks helped launch him in his career, and he would travel with people. And as he traveled with people, he would often write what we call a planxty, he referred to as a planxty, which he meant as a tune in honor of his patron who had kept him and looked after him. And they'd have concerts, and sometimes he'd stay somewhere and teach music to the family or someone in the family. And he'd often compose while he was there. Now, it's interesting because when I think about this, I get the impression, a well-to-do family, it's an honor to get the great Turlough O'Carolan to come and show up and stay at your house for a while, and you're hosting concerts. He's composing. He might do something in honor of you. But I get the impression that well-to-do families at this time are hiring a number of people to come teach the children. I was looking at my notes here. There's a gentleman whose diary exists, Charles O'Connor. And Charles O'Connor's diary from 1762 notes that Turlough was at the house, teaching, composing, performing. Also mentions that Blind Mary female harpist was at the house teaching Charles's younger siblings. So 2 harpists at the house doing work. And so this seems to be a supported story. And so we can assume that Mary and Turlough knew each other. And I'm sorry that she comes down through history as only blind Mary. I'd love to know her surname. But blind Mary was an accomplished musician. And she was also traveling around teaching people. And there are a couple of stories about her, which is pretty slick. I love it. And anyway, so Turlough and Mary are at the same house teaching, and I'm assuming playing together in some of the concerts too. And that's pretty cool. So this tune, if the story's correct, this tune is in honor of Mary. I think, isn't that sweet? I just think that is really cool. And I love that. So think about that story as you're playing it. She must have been a lovely harpist as well as Turlough, to have the skills to travel around and teach families, I think is awesome. But to think of the 2 of them together in this house, teaching different family members and performing, and then Turlough having enough respect for her to compose this tune in her honor. That's great. My friends, embrace this tune, have fun with this tune, emote this tune, and have that story a bit in your mind as you're deciding how you want to ornament and express it. And until next time, this is Scott Shade. Happy whistling, my friends.